Well, there's two ways I think of that you see results in terms of innovation. And the first one is sort of, to me, the obvious one, which is that if you don't, as a company, keep coming up with new innovations and with more efficient ways, things that delight customers, just new and better ideas, then you're going to make less money. The other thing that happens, and I hate to be, sort of dour about it, is that if you don't do it, eventually your company will disappear, because there's no organization that's exactly the same as it was 10 or 15 years ago. So it's important, and the other way in which it's important to hopefully get beyond some of the usual. So innovation it's a little bit like talking about education or being nice to children or something. It's sort of pablum. The other thing about innovation, and I talked about this in my speech a little bit, to me a lot of the fine art of innovation is also knowing when not to innovate. And this notion that everybody should be innovating all the time, I actually don't think is a good idea. That there's times, well, first of all, one reason you have to leave well enough alone is if you change everything at once, you actually can't figure out the effect of what's going on. And then the other thing is that if you're still making money off an idea or it's still working, you got to be careful to fiddle with it, because sometimes you make things worse. New does not always mean better. Exactly. And that's, to me, that's the fine art. Like if you're a leader who's leading an organization, it isn't like you should be all innovation all the time. It's sort of like walking a tightrope. You got to know when to lean to the innovation. You got to know when to sort of wait. The leader is very important, and one of the things that I emphasized in my talk today, and this also comes through good boss, bad boss, is one of the reasons the leader is so important, not just because they're the person who tells everybody what to do and knows what should be done, but because they create the team that enables the innovation to happen. So some of the things I talked about in my speech was having the right amount of constructive conflict, the right mix of people. One thing I did not talk about, which is very important for innovation actually, is the ability to have both the courage and the power to get rid of people who are fundamentally destructive. That's one of those things that, and people say to me, well, I work in an organization where it's impossible to fire people, which sometimes that's the case. Even in those cases, finding ways to move them aside is effective. There's one guy I teach with. He's been CEO of one U.S. company in Patagonia, which I guess the clothing company. He was chief operating officer. So one of his philosophies is when you can't get rid of them, you put them all in one place so they all can drive each other crazy and not drive the rest of us crazy. Put all the bad apples in one group. And so to me, the leader is important, and of course it's good to have a leader who is technically competent and kind of understand the work, but creating the team and the network that can make things happen is very important. Well, so the thing that really strikes me about the project and the attitude, and I've been talking to members of the company, is that there's an understanding, which in a lot of times in big companies there isn't the understanding that you don't, that although innovation or any organizational change is important and essential, it's not like you make instant change and it can happen right away. So from talking to several of the executives and the folks on the innovation team, that they're very good about taking it sort of one step at a time. So there's one of the companies I'm working with. So the book I'm working on right now, which it'll be done, who knows? It's on scaling. It's called on scaling up excellence, scaling large scale change. And so one of the organizations I work with, they describe it as when you're leading large-scale changes at a company like Telefonica, and I think they're doing a very good job of doing this, is your job is to move like 1,000 people forward like a foot a day, not one person, I guess you'd say meters, 1,000 meters in one day. So, and even in smaller companies that are like the darlings of the innovation world, when I watch what they do, it's amazing how long it takes and how much attention they look at for little detail. So that's one thing I like in the people that I met at Telefonica is they're happy with how far they've gotten, but there's a restlessness that they can do more, and that to me is that's a big part of the innovative spirit.
Of course, you can see the change of their minds in this case.
Yes.
In the global view about this innovation inside companies, how do you see this situation right now? You can see that companies, well, some of them are really innovative.
Right.
But others, like they are in the past.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be populations of organizations, and the other thing that I always like to emphasize is this notion that although I made the sort of innovate or die argument sort of early, if you don't innovate, you die. Well, there also is risk at doing things new, and one thing that I always like to make the argument is that it's good to innovate, but it's really dangerous to be first. And so I'll give you actually an example I learned about last night. LAN, your airline. So LAN has started an experiment where they have the reservation agents doing that from their house. I don't know if you heard about this, but was funded by the government. Well, my perspective on that is if you were the first to do that, you might not be so smart because it might cost you a lot of money and it might not work. But there's an airline in the U.S., JetBlue, that did that first. It actually was quite successful with it. Saved a lot of money, got very high quality workers, and so a lot of times in innovation, since to me innovation is you get a new idea and you implement it, and you don't have to necessarily invent it yourself. Stealing's a good idea. That's in fact the Steve Jobs quote is that something like ordinary companies copy and great ones steal, and or in a legal way. So that's actually that got Apple going. He was very good at stealing ideas and giving people just enough money so they couldn't sue him. That's to me part of the art is have somebody else go out and try the experiment, and then move quickly and do a better job of implementing than them. It's not a bad model actually. So the current Silicon Valley darling is Facebook, and they're still adding 2 million users a week. Nonetheless, when you go to Facebook, and we've done some interviews at Facebook, and you talk to them about how they're growing their culture, they're actually doing it slowly and deliberately. And so I see that, although Facebook's sort of the opposite company from Telefonica in terms of being like a one-product hot young startup with the 28-year-old CEO, but the attitude of having patience and realizing that you've got to sort of grind it out day after day. I really see it there. They're very, for example, they're very patient with their hiring and the way that they bring people aboard, even though they're always behind. They have so much to do. When they bring a new engineer aboard Facebook, they don't even know what job they're going to do for the first 6 weeks. They just have them do a bunch of different jobs so they can figure out the way the whole code base works and the way the culture works. And so that patience in persistence with a little bit of restlessness because it's never quite happening fast enough. So I've been feeling that at Telefonica, which is we made progress, we're happy, and there's plans for a new event, but we can always do more, we can always do better, and when people aren't restless, that's when I start